Hey everybody, Steve here, Local Level Podcast. I'm sitting here today with Kevin Ng. He is a specialist in microscopic dentistry, and he is owner of Molar City in Chicago. You can find him 4620 Northwestern, and you can learn more about Molar City at molarcitychicago.com. Kevin, it's a real pleasure to have you on.
Hey, Steve. Thanks for having me on.
Definitely.
Happy to be here.
Definitely, yeah. And we had a really good conversation about a week ago when we first spoke before this interview here, and you brought up a few really important points. I mean, when people think of dentistry, obviously it's really hard to social distance when you have somebody working on your mouth.
Oh yeah. There's no such thing as social distancing in dentistry. We are actually in your personal space most of the time when we're working. Let alone social distancing.
Definitely.
So it's really tough. Yeah.
Yeah. And, one of the things about dentistry, people's cavities don't go away just because there's a shutdown. You need work done. One of the biggest pains that you have is tooth pain. I mean, it's unbearable. So,
that's correct. Most people describe some dental pain as worse than giving birth. I personally have no experience with that, but
right.
I can believe them when they tell me.
Oh yeah. I mean, I'm actually, when we were talking, it's crazy. I just finished a round of antibiotics because I had a temporary filling done a while back. I was supposed to get like the full thing, and I never got around to doing it because it seemed fine. And then obviously, right when there's no dentist available, it flares up with an infection. So
that's the best time to happen, right?
Right. It always happens
like that.
Exactly.
What is that called? Like Murphy's Law?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It definitely always strikes when it's the worst timing. But thankfully now it's okay. So hopefully when we get back to business here, I'll be able to get that taken care of and everything. But as far as your business goes, tell us a little bit about how you got started. When did you open up? I know that it's fairly recent, right?
Yeah, so I started I'm Canadian actually, so it took me a while to get my green card. I needed a green card to get a loan, basically to start the practice. It's quite a pretty penny there.
Right.
But I've always wanted to start my own practice. So after getting my green card, everything was sped up. I found a location, I built it out, got all of that done within a year. So I opened last year in the summer. In Lincoln Square. And, for the last 6 years when I was working with other people, for other people at other offices, I really fell in love with the concept of microscope dentistry, being able to do dentistry through a microscope. So most dentists nowadays, they have their loupes, which jewelers use as well, as a magnifying glass on your glasses. It magnifies the vision anywhere from 2.5 times to maybe 4.5 to maybe 6 times.
Okay.
And obviously it makes us, it lets us do our job easier. We can see much more with that than without. So we're doing a much more precise type of dentistry with our loupes. That's why we're headed that way.
Yeah.
Microscope is kind of the next step on top of that.
Mm-hmm.
You can go anywhere from 4 times magnification to 25 times, anywhere from there. So, as you can imagine, we can get a lot more precise with doing that. We can see a lot more, we can see a lot more initial problems when a cavity is still very small. We can see that much more clearly. And a side benefit of that I discovered was you can attach a video camera to the microscope and take pictures. And just the conversation you have with the patient is much easier when you take a picture that is blown up like this of their tooth and you're like, oh, you see this little spot, you see the tooth next to it, there's no spot there.
Yeah.
Well, that spot's actually a cavity, so I felt like educationally speaking, it allows the patient to, kind of jump on board with what's going on with their mouth. And that's what really caught me with microscopes and dentistry. Because I could be more of a collaboration with the patient.
Yeah. That's always a better thing with any type of work that you have done, any health related thing. I mean, to really have that understanding of what's going on so you can make an informed decision.
Exactly. And I feel like most people are, a lot of my colleagues saying, most people don't know what they're looking at. I kind of disagree. I feel like if you explain to them, this is what you're looking at, everybody will be able to get what is proper, what's not improper. They can get it. I think our patients are smart enough and they have the abilities to really understand what we're doing. It's not that complicated to say.
Right. That. Well, don't sell yourself short. It definitely is complicated. I couldn't do it, but or I can't. If I went to school for as long as you did, maybe I could. But it's definitely an important thing. I mean, I like the fact that when we were talking before, that you're incorporating more technology and using technology in a way to kind of, like you said, educate people. And so tell us a little bit about, the way that you set up your business as opposed to, kind of the old ways that people did it. You said that there's some kind of designs that you did when planning the space and, all that. Can you go over that a little bit for us?
Yeah, pretty much. I designed the whole concept around microscopes. I have a TV on the ceiling that is connected to the camera, so I can broadcast a live feed of what I'm seeing. So if I'm seeing something interesting on the first exam, I could say, hey, Steve, look at what I found here on this tooth. You see this dark spot?
Yeah.
And you can look at it. Like, you're lying back and you look up at the TV on the ceiling. Yeah, I see that. Okay, look at the tooth next to it. You don't see a dark spot. The dark spot is maybe just a piece of food stuck there, so, or maybe that's a cavity, whatever it may be. I can show you, take a picture, show you. If you don't want to see it, that's fine as well. We can always play Netflix on top there. So, it never goes to waste, the TV on the top there. But I feel like setting up my rooms, I also set my rooms up for more privacy. We were going on a trend with dentistry, more open concept. All the rooms were kind of in the open, and all that was between you and the patient next door was a cabinet, but all the sounds and sometimes even the smells can, transition across the rooms.
Yeah.
And that's where we were headed mostly. I didn't really like that trend. I made all of my rooms more personal, so if we wanted to, we can actually close the door and have like an enclosed space, so none of the sound from the other room will travel over to our room. None of the smells, none of the the
screams,
emotions, the emotions basically coming from the other room will come over. And I think that, because I'm always discussing the patient's treatment in the room, I think that element of privacy is a lot better and it's a lot more appreciated, because I don't want to be talking about your cavity and having the person next door able to hear it.
Sure.
So I really set it up that way. And I feel like it works really well hand in hand with the microscope because, even though it's on the ceiling, I don't want anybody else to be able to see it. Only you, right? You as the patient. So I built up my office from the ground up with those things in mind. And, it turned out really nicely. And because of the pandemic now, not having an open space is actually better for sterilization of the room. So, whatever, things that happen in this room, it stays in this room and I only have to sterilize, focus on making sure this room is sterile, because if it's all open, then it's hard to sterilize everything. You
can't do it all at once. You got to kind of contain spaces so you can keep people safe, especially. It's great that you had that in mind before this happened because that's going to allow you to kind of transition and protect people, keep people safe, and probably open faster than the other people would. So
that was a little bit of luck, I guess, there, because I just wanted private rooms, and I guess private rooms are better now.
Definitely. And the thing that comes up for people in people's minds, one of the main reasons why I wanted to have you on is this is something that people have to have a relationship with a dentist throughout their life. It's important for health. I mean, oral health is so important for overall health. So, it's something that I wanted to talk about. How we're going to move forward. I know that there's a lot of uncertainty right now with the pandemic and all that stuff, and there's guidelines and things are constantly changing. But from what we know right now, we know that it's an airborne thing. So when we were talking before, when you're in the mouth, and you're drilling, there's like you said, aerosolization. Is it aerosolization? Is that how you say it?
Yeah, we produce certain types of aerosols. So initially, we were very concerned about that because almost everything we do in dentistry involves around the mouth,
Right.
And people are saying, hey, just by talking or sneezing or whatever it may be, you may spread this virus,
Yeah.
coronavirus.
Right.
And it makes sense, if you're working within 6 inches from someone's face for an extended period of time, it does make sense, Fortunately, I haven't heard of too many transmission cases from a dental office.
Yeah.
But it is definitely something that we're, trying to address, we're concerned about, and
Definitely.
we're trying to move around that, see what we can do in that space.
Well, aside from the fact that you, like you said, you have separated spaces, which is overall a good thing, a great thing.
Yeah.
You're also implementing some other things. You said that you are going to have air purification and vacuums. Can you tell us a little bit about what your plans are?
Yep. So we are going to have surgical grade air purifying. So we're going to change over the rooms, a certain amount of times an hour to hopefully catch the viral particles. My UV light arrived recently.
Oh, wow.
I have that on order. Everything was on, taking a long time to get here, but we have a UVC light, and we're going to turn that on between patients and keep it on for half an hour. So
how does that work? Can you tell us how that works a little bit?
Basically, the frequency of the light kills or disables a lot of the particles, the viral particles or bacterial particles. You just turn it on and the frequency of the light does the work for us.
Yeah.
But you just need to give it time. You can't just turn it on and, okay, everything is clean.
Right.
You got to wait, and some of them produce ozone, which, is not the best to breathe in. So we don't really want that. So that's why when we get back to work, it will take a bit, we won't be able to see as many patients as we once did.
Yeah.
It'll take an extra, if I see a patient for an hour, I'm going to keep the room sterilizing for an extra hour,
Wow.
Whereas in the past, we would sterilize it for, 10 minutes or so, wipe down everything. And that was good, because we weren't dealing with an airborne particle back then. We were more concerned about bloodborne pathogens, HIV, stuff like that could be transmitted through the blood. And with that, we just have to contact all the surfaces that we need to, and then give it a few minutes, and then we're good. Airborne, it's a different game because we have to, change over the air, and it's a little tougher.
Yeah, it's difficult.
We haven't gone fully to airborne protocols yet. That is a step of an order of magnitude higher. But we're kind of right now straddling, right in between, almost to the airborne protocols. But, it is definitely, we are doing a step more than what we did in the past.
Yeah. And also you're probably doing more between the UV and the air purification and all the things that you're kind of planning. I mean, that's a step more than a lot of people probably are doing anyway,
One more thing that I forgot to mention. I ordered a kind of, we call it an extraoral vacuum. It's kind of like an exhaust fan.
Nice.
That it's a vacuum on the end of a hose that we place right next to the patient's face, and it's a constant suction there, so any, aerosols that we may generate will hopefully be caught by this suction machine. At least 90% or more of the, it's basically when you cook and you put your exhaust
for sure
hood over what you're cooking, it kind of sucks it up. So that's basically the gist of it. And hopefully that will reduce the amount of viral particles that are spread amongst around the room, and then the air purifiers will catch the rest. And that will definitely put us all at ease. We don't know if it's absolutely necessary yet. CDC guidelines, ADA guidelines have not deemed that as necessary as of yet. And I doubt that they will deem that as a requirement. But for my patient's peace of mind, and also my staff's peace of mind, and also myself,
of course,
I thought that was a logical step to take.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. And I mean, it's there's already so much stress surrounding a dental visit, to have that extra layer of it on there. That's pretty rough. I mean, it's going to dissuade people from going there. So having that little extra layer of security is definitely a good thing. And it's a smart thing for you to do as a business owner. You did bring up, I mean, for your staff and for yourself, it's very important because you're dealing with people, regular, strangers a lot of times, people coming in and
Yeah.
going. So,
Yeah.
you need to protect yourself and your staff. Now, you were saying that it's been kind of hard until now to get the necessary PPE and all those things. Can you talk a little bit about that and how that's been going?
Yeah. It is actually still hard. Some of the PPE that I ordered many months ago have started to arrive, so that's good. Other PPEs, I've got a few of that, but not enough to really, get a full schedule going. The basic PPEs like the N95 masks, that I have a couple of, but it's still actually really hard to get them. I've got a couple of sources. They haven't come through yet.
Yeah.
I guess, I guess it's the same throughout the States. It's tough to get the N95 masks. A couple of the gowns that I've had have just arrived, I believe, yesterday. So, we're going to all cover up, wear our gowns, cover all, everywhere inch of our body, make sure, and then change the gowns for every patient,
Great.
This is something that we didn't used to do before, only when you do, an intense surgery will you kind of gown up.
Right.
Now we're going to gown up for every patient. So I'm happy that those have arrived. I'm still waiting on, the exhaust fan, the suction, the extraoral suction that I mentioned earlier. And the air purifiers have been shipped, so hopefully they'll come within a week.
Nice.
So we're getting there. We're getting there, but it's nowhere near where it should be. And also some of the PPE that we can get are 10 times the cost that it was before.
That's one of the things that comes up with people. I mean, you can find some listings for things, but they're like ridiculous amounts of money for this stuff.
It's just how much you can pay for it.
Yeah.
And it's tough for us as a business. We've been closed for a couple of months. We don't have the income to spend another 10 grand on PPE.
Of course.
Most of us aren't in that situation. It's really tough.
Yeah. Well, that's all around. And I mean, if there's anybody that really, really is in need of that, it's somebody like you that is in a close confined space, within that personal bubble.
Yeah.
I mean, you'd be I would assume you'd be the first people that they'd be trying to get that to, because anybody funnily
enough, in the beginning of the pandemic, in the beginning of the lockdown, I would say,
Sure.
mid-March, something like that, I gave away more than 50% of my PPE to the hospital. I was like, oh, here you guys go. Because I didn't know it was going to last this long. I thought by the time we open, it's going to be back to normal. I can get my PPE easily, but that's not the case. But, I don't regret giving it away. It was the right move. It's just a little harder for me to get the PPE.
Yeah, of course. Now. Yeah, I don't think any of us expected really how deep this was going to kind of cut. But we are moving in the right direction. It looks like the numbers are going down. Today is, I guess the Illinois restriction, the stay-at-home order has been lifted officially today. So that's great. And, it's going to be a difficult thing. I mean, there's going to be a lot of people that will be kind of apprehensive to go out and do these things, especially things that aren't necessary. Right. If you're going for a cleaning, for instance, you probably, I would assume most people would probably hold off on that. Unfortunately.
Yep.
Now down the road, though, from the dentist perspective, what are the effects? What are the repercussions for holding off on dental work? Can you walk us through that a little bit? What do you think you're going to be seeing happen?
Yeah. A lot of times we see when people neglect to see the dentist for a while, through their own will or because they just cannot come.
Yeah.
Because of the pandemic. We see some broken teeth and definitely some infections.
Yeah.
Infections take a long time to brew, and we never know when it's going to bubble over, basically, and turn into pain. But it always seems to be the most inopportune times that happens.
Exactly my situation, yes. But
so I'm expecting quite a few, maybe some broken fillings, maybe some need for root canals, maybe some people who have they know that they have a bad tooth that it should come out. They've been kind of putting it off. And then now all of a sudden, the pandemic happens. You can't take it out. And now, oh man, it's really starting to hurt.
Yeah.
I'm expecting to see a lot of those things. my patient population actually is doing a great job keeping their, on top of their oral health. I haven't really seen too many emergency visits. I have gone in maybe 4 or 5 times in the past month or so to address emergencies, but nowhere near as many emergencies as some other offices have seen.
Huh. Wow.
Yeah.
And any reason, do you think? What do you think the reasons are for that? You think it's just kind of fear of coming in?
I feel like I really stress keeping good care of your teeth when you're here.
Okay.
I feel like that. I would like to think selfishly that makes a difference.
Sure, of course it does. Yeah.
I feel like as a dentist, if you take care of your teeth, and you didn't have any major dental problems before, there shouldn't be any curveball thrown in there. You should be fine.
Yeah.
And most of my patients, they are taking care of their teeth, and I just reinforce that. So I don't really see too much, except for, the trauma. You fell on your face by accident. You rolled out of bed and you fell on your face. That's kind of unpredictable. You cannot
sure, of course.
predict that, except from that, most of my patients are, mostly infection free,
That's great.
And I'm glad for that.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, that's some of the worst pain. I mean, I was dying, I'll tell you. And I was really worried that I wasn't going to be able to get any type of relief. And that's like, you can't do anything. Yeah. You're totally incapacitated. Yeah. I mean, it's like, the worst.
If it gets bad enough, like dentists we will see you. I have seen patients in pain during the pandemic, because, professionally, I can't let someone go around, experiencing this type of pain for who knows how long. At that point, we didn't know how long it was going to last. So, if whoever had a dental problem, dentists are out there who will take you and who will see you. So there is some sort of relief for that. It's mainly for the patients who are, wanting to get, maybe their braces done now. Now's not the time.
Right.
Maybe something nears. Now's not the time.
Right. Yeah. That makes sense. And I think that's just, kind of just personal responsibility, kind of making those decisions. I mean, if something is important, if you're in pain, obviously you need to go see the dentist. But certain things maybe should wait a little bit to, at the very least, keep your capacity open for the people that are really in pain. I think that would probably be smart for everybody to kind of think that way. And now, as far as your business goes now, when we release this, like we talked about, you currently will be open and accepting new clients. Is that right?
Yes. When this podcast's out, I'll be open again. We are still, as with most businesses, still kind of finding out what's the new normal.
Right, of course.
Phasing ourselves in, working slowly, as the restaurants are going to have a max capacity. I think they can only open outdoors if they have that space, with a social distancing guideline. We're going to be doing the same thing. We're not going to be seeing as many patients back to back, as before. We're going to spend extra time to make sure the room's sterile and not use that room until maybe in the afternoon,
Sure.
Several hours later, pretty much slowing it down as such and kind of finding our feet that way. But we will be open, and
you can schedule.
I'm excited.
Yeah. Well, I
finally see my patients again.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you're a business owner, and to stay closed for such a long period of time is catastrophic. And that's definitely something that is good news that we're going to be able to get back to it. So if anybody is, kind of in need, if they're in the Ravenswood, Lincoln Square area, or the surrounding areas, definitely check out molarcitychicago.com. You can, learn more about Kevin's place and, get some help. Now, I wanted to move on to the economic thing that we were talking about before, as far as being a newer business. And one of the things that you brought up, which was a good point, you really built your business in a way where you didn't have a lot of overhead. You didn't have a huge payroll. You didn't have you were trying to save money and be responsible so you could put your money back into the business. Unfortunately for the PP, what is it? The
PPP.
Yeah, the PPP. All the things that you did kind of.
Yeah, it worked against me.
Yeah.
So that was funny. as a new business owner, as you said, I was trying to keep payroll low, try to be responsible.
Right.
I didn't take a paycheck, keep everything that the business earned goes back into the business, it worked against me in multiple ways. The PPP check was pretty low. My rent is high, because I'm in Chicago.
Right.
But my payroll, I was working by myself a lot of the time. I was doing everything by myself, and I wasn't paying myself because, I was trying to be responsible. And that in effect lowered my payroll, which was good. But when it came time to applying for the PPP, I didn't really get too much help there.
Yeah.
I did get something, which I'm very thankful for.
Sure.
Something is better than nothing.
Of course.
But, luckily I was able to, during my build out, I was able to save some money there, and I had some, I was very diligent with my working capital. So with that being said, I was able to withstand the couple months that we were closed.
Yeah.
But, the PPE, because it was based solely on the payroll, it really didn't help me too much.
Right. Yeah. And that's one of the things that I hear from a lot of people. It's, this particular loan, it's it's only forgiven if you keep all of your employees, and there's a lot of different stipulations where it isn't just something that's a loan. But what I find from a lot of people is that the employees don't want to come back to work because they're scared, number one, a lot of times. And I would assume that, that goes for you because of the reasons that we talked about before. How has that affected you? How are they coming around, your employees, with all the things that you're rolling out? How is that working?
Yeah. Well, one last thing to touch upon the PPP, like I basically considered it as a loan. I don't consider any of it will be forgiven. I'm just going to use it as a loan. It's just extra working capital for me, and I'm very thankful for that.
Definitely.
I expect none of it will be forgiven. That's kind of my planning for the worst, which is fine. It's still a 1% loan, and it's very reasonable, and you will never get a loan like this,
Right.
So I'm treating it as such. So that's fine with me. I'm not complaining too much about that. With regards to my staff, feeling comfortable coming back. A lot of the stuff that I'm doing, improving the systems, getting new equipment to make us safe is for them,
Yeah, of course.
I understand, a lot of them are living with, not necessarily immunocompromised patients, but maybe high-risk patients. You can say that, high-risk people, grandparents,
Sure.
young kids, stuff like that. And I understand, you don't want to be, you don't want to be exposed to anything at work and possibly bring it back home, so that's why I'm also taking it slow to reopen. They'll come back when they're ready. I've shown that I can kind of run the ship myself for the past year, by myself. I can do the day-to-day, and especially if I'm slowing down my patients, only seeing maybe 3 to 4 patients maximum a day, I can do it myself. That's fine.
Sure.
I guess I'm lucky enough, that I don't have, young kids living with me or older parents living with me. I can kind of do it myself like this and kind of keep myself isolated, which I have, and just kind of hold down the fort that way. All my employees, I love them when they're ready to come back. And when we have enough PPE, they will be back,
Right.
and they will be excited to be back.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, it's that's your team, and in order to have a good business, your team has to be, safe and comfortable and happy. And, it sounds like that's what you're doing. So that's great. Now, to go a little bit away from just the business part of it, and we talk about some of the things that we were talking about before. We talked about something, we had a long conversation last week when we first touched base, but you brought something up about game theory and how that applies to our situation right now about deciding what is right for our safety as far as, opening up or staying closed, what's right for our economic thing. And just if you can lay that out for us, what you were talking about with game theory and how that relates to this.
Well, with the quarantine, I got into, mathematics and game theory. I just was interested in watching and reading up about that. And I came across this situation in game theory. I think it's called the prisoner's dilemma. Mm-hmm. So I guess the story is this, there's 2 prisoners, if one of the prisoners, kind of snitch on the other, then the other prisoner who got snitched on, he gets say 8 years in jail, right?
Yeah.
And the one who snitched on them gets nothing, right? Because if same thing happens if prisoner B snitches on prisoner A, B goes free, and A gets 8 years. If they both stay, they don't stay quiet, they don't say anything, they both get say 1 year, each, because they both didn't open their mouths. If they both snitch on each other, then they both get say 4 years each, or 3 years each. It was interesting in that, there was what they call a Nash equilibrium, an equilibrium that will always be reached, because it will always make more sense for you as a prisoner to snitch on the other person, even though we know that the ideal outcome for everybody was to everybody keep their mouth shut and just keep their head down. Right. Because if you work it out, if say you and me, Steve, we were the prisoners, right? If I knew, hey, if I keep my mouth shut and Steve keeps their mouth shut, we both get 1 year, which is fine, which is still serving time, but it's not the greatest, but we still get 1 year. Now, if I knew, hey, Steve's a stand-up guy, he will never snitch on me, I'm going to be the one to snitch on him,
man. So
I'm looking at, possibly 1 year in prison or 0 years in prison, right? I'm going to obviously say, hey, Steve, I'm not, sorry, you're a nice guy, but I'm going to snitch on you, right?
Oh, man.
And then I'm going to get 0 years, and I'm sorry, you're going to get 8, but that's the way it is. And once you realize that, hey, Kevin's going to throw me under the bus, I'm faced with 8 years, or if we both snitch, we both get, say, 3 years. You're going to choose 3 years. So then the equilibrium will always be reached that, hey, if we're acting in our own self-interest, we will always snitch on each other, right? And do what's in our best interest, which may not be in the best interest of,
right.
overall.
It's not it's not the best of the possibilities, but it's
right. It's not the ideal situation for everybody involved,
right.
But it was the best situation for you personally.
Yeah.
It was the best decision that you could have made personally. And I just kind of felt some similarities to the current, situation that we have, unless we can get everybody to agree that, hey, we're going to put our differences aside. This is what we're going to be doing, and it's only going to be lasting for a month, maybe 2, and then everything will be back to normal. Unless we can get everybody on board with that, the equilibrium was going to always be, hey, everyone's going to act in their own self-interest. And do what they think was necessary to protect their interest. And that's that's understandable. That was game theory.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I mean it's you brought that up, and it makes perfect sense, and it relates perfectly to the situation we're in. Another thing that we brought up was kind of the culture of the United States, and the way that we are very, individual right focused. We want to kind of like, hey, you don't tell me what to do. I'm a free person,
right.
which is great. It's one of the reasons why it makes our country so great, and we're able to come up with, innovate and, do all these great things that we've been able to do. But it ill equips us for our current situation, just because of the fact that you just laid out, the things that you just said. If we don't all get on board, which that's like herding cats, you'll never be able to do that.
Right.
Our society just is not built that way.
Right.
As opposed to Asian societies, there's a big difference. And we brought that up as well, where they already kind of have this in their culture, as far as wearing masks and, conforming and things like that is kind of built into the system. So it's a very interesting kind of experiment. There's a lot of interesting things that we get to kind of see about the way that we run our societies. And I think that when we come out on the other end of this, it's going to teach us about the differences that we have and kind of what works and what doesn't. But where do you see it going? How do you, as a matter of fact, how do you feel about what happened, what's happening right now in China with the Hong Kong situation, if you don't mind? What do you think?
Well, I'm pro-democracy all the time. Warts and all, democracy is not, nothing is perfect. No system is perfect, but I really do appreciate the freedom of speech that we have in the United States, and it seems like sometimes those rights are trying to be suppressed or being suppressed over there.
Yeah.
And that's what makes America great. And that's why I love it, because anybody, you can have an opinion on everything all the time and you will not suffer any physical consequences for it, in America, and that's what makes America great. And it's just very sad what's happening in with regards to Hong Kong. I think I forgot who, but somebody determined that Hong Kong is no longer autonomous from China. Like yesterday, like for all intents and purposes, we cannot consider Hong Kong as autonomous from China now. And unfortunately, I actually do agree with all the meaning behind it. Like Hong Kong is not free from China anymore. Like they're they're influenced by them in a very heavy way. And that's sad. That's how it is. I don't want to get too political there. I'm not too into that, but just from an outsider's perspective, I do appreciate the freedoms that being here affords us.
And it's what I say with a lot of things is we're so lucky to be able to have opposing opinions and voice
that's what
them.
Makes America great,
right? I mean, we're sitting
we
here
challenge each other.
Exactly, and that's healthy. It's good to be exposed to other opinions and not just bubble wrapped. Even if you're bubble wrapped in something that's good and it's like a positive thing, you need to see the ugly. Sometimes you need to be able to see the ugly and say that's something right there. Identify it so you know that it exists and acknowledge it and acknowledge how good things are.
I feel like for Americans, that's what literally, I keep saying this, but that's what makes America great. All our differing opinions, how we challenge each other. But in a certain way, it also leads us to be ill-equipped to deal with certain situations. This situation, with the pandemic, we were dealt with. We don't know what the hell is going on, right?
Right.
But we didn't know what the heck was going on. It was a new virus, and it's great for all the debate and all that we're having, but sometimes you kind of have to act quickly, and it just ill-equipped us to handle this, but it really, this is why our economy is so great. The American economy is great because all our different ideas are coming out and all we challenge each other to be better, and that's what makes our economy great. But for this one particular scenario, that nobody saw really coming, it kind of worked to our detriment a little bit. Everyone was each doing their own thing. Everyone, all the news sources were, I still am confused as what's going on. What the right thing to do is. It is what it is.
It's life.
This is the American way of doing things.
Yes.
We take the good with the ugly.
Right. Yeah. You can't win all the time. Sometimes you can't be prepared for every situation all the time. I mean, it's just not possible, unfortunately. But we are lucky to have the freedoms to complain, and try to change things by getting involved and starting a business and making decisions for yourself and going to work and building something from the ground up like you have. And that's the best part. That's why I like doing this show, because I talk with interesting people. My main job, I speak with small business owners all the time for marketing purposes. And I started this show because I was having these really great conversations with people, insightful conversations where, you learn something every time. And I know that you're in networking groups and you network with people and, you learn so much. And, it's something that I had to record it. I had to get it out there because it's such valuable stuff. And one of the things that I've really realized through doing this is that we're not so different. We all come from different, backgrounds and we have different experiences in our life. But, overall, we all pretty much want the same thing. We want, health and happiness and, to have, family and love and, all that. And, that's that it's something that a lot of times we forget that we're all pretty much neighbors,
Yeah, amongst all the bickering,
yes.
we want the same thing,
Yeah.
It's like when you argue with your parents, like we all want the same thing. They want the best for us,
right?
We want the best for them. It's the same thing, right?
Definitely.
It's just different ways different ways of going about it, and that's what, that's why I like, the freedom that we have in this country, because everyone is allowed to say, whatever they're thinking of saying.
Definitely. Yeah. And, at some point we're going to look back on this time and, we're going to have that 2020 hindsight and, say we could have done it this way or that way or whatever. But overall, though, I think that we have a real opportunity to change some of the things that were broken. Kind of reorganize some of the stuff that we, the approaches, especially with how we do business. Working remotely, for instance, is something that has opened a lot of people's eyes. The stresses of having to go into an office, and not even really being as productive. Why have that office? Why do you have to go and sit in the cubicle when you're doing the same thing, at home and it's working fine?
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that quality of life. I think people are really opening up their eyes to, happiness. What makes them happy? What is really important in life? Taking a step back from these crazy responsibilities all the time and having a little bit of room to breathe, I think is really refreshing. And it's we're going to see some really great stuff. I really believe that. When we get back open, we're going to see some really, really great stuff. People are going to be a little refreshed, I believe. What are your thoughts on how the world looks, after we get back to it?
I think one thing about America, and I think as Americans, this won't happen to us again. We won't be caught with our pants down. Some great innovation and great things will come out of this, and that's what's great about us, that we won't let this happen again. And I'm sure about it. We learn our lessons all the time, and I believe some great innovation and other things will actually come out of this. Every time we have a setback in America, great things come out of it.
Yeah.
Like lessons are always learned, and that's what keeps making us stronger. And that's why I'm very actually optimistic about, the future. This will just be a temporary setback. We will learn our lessons and we will move forward and we'll be stronger, for the next, worldwide crisis, I guess.
Yeah. I hope so. I tend to believe that we will come out stronger and better after this. I mean, trials and tribulations are always kind of the way it goes. You get through it and you walk. It's about how you keep going. It's perseverance through it. Unfortunately, though, there are those people, and I'm sure you've experienced this, that aren't going to come out too well. That are really struggling right now, especially businesses. It's actually funny where you're located. I used to live right down the street. So, where you're at on Western there, I was just a few blocks down from there. That's where I lived a while back. And one of the places at the corner of Western and I believe Montrose, Jerry's Grill is a diner that's been there since the 60s. They don't deliver. They don't do any of that stuff, but they decided they had to close down. And it's a really...
I drove past. Sorry for interrupting. I drove past the other day and I saw the signs. Unfortunately, they're closing, and it's a big hit. It's really terrible. Like all these small businesses. Me being one of them. I think I'm going to make it out. I'm very blessed for that. But a lot of small businesses are not coming out of this.
Yeah. And for just because, and one of the things that in the statement that the owner there made was that that the world just doesn't have a place for this business anymore. It's changed, and they can't open because they can't social distance. It's a small little diner. They don't deliver. They have very low cost on the food. It's it's one of those places. It's open 24 hours. You can't. You just can't. And it's really sad because those are some of the best places in the city. Those diners. Yeah. You don't see that anymore. You don't see it as much anymore, and definitely not after this. That place where you could always go. You can talk to the guy. You can watch him make your eggs at 2 o'clock in the morning or 4 o'clock in the morning or whatever, And that's really sad. But,
Well, I think there's a chance for these businesses definitely to come back in the future. I don't think we will be destined to socially distance forever. Americans and people the world over, we need, close physical contact with people,
it's important.
And I think, we will be ingenious enough to find out how to do that, right now, the Zoom meetings, everything is a nice stopgap measure, but nothing beats being next to somebody, eating, sharing a meal, stuff like that. And I think we definitely will find a way to get back to that, and definitely. I don't think it'll be as long as some people think. I think it may be sooner than we think. And I'm hopeful.
Yeah. I know. And we have to get through it. We don't have a choice.
Yeah.
Life goes on. We have to get through it. And I think we'll come out better for it. As far as your business goes, I know that you're doing a lot of things, and when this does go out, once again, I want everybody to check out, if you're in the area, Lincoln Square area, check out Molar City. It's 4620 Northwestern Avenue in Chicago, and you can schedule an appointment or give them a call. You can find all that information at molarcitychicago.com. Now, is there anything that you'd like to leave the audience with, inspiration or anything that you feel like sharing?
I feel like sharing. There's a recent development of mine with Molar City. I have been bringing on a partner, an orthodontist. So he is a great colleague of mine, and he specializes in Invisalign. So hopefully we can serve the market better, So he will be doing all of our Invisalign in Molar City, and he's going to be on board, middle of June, end of June. So by the time this goes out, I think we'll be, working well together. So, if you know anybody who wants to get a consult with Invisalign or normal braces as well, Molar City, we're going to have that as well.
Yeah, that's great. So
I'm pretty excited for that. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, that's a great neighborhood too. I really miss living there. The Ravenswood area. You're right there by the Brown line as well. It's easy to get to. It's a great place. When we do get opened up, there's a lot of great restaurants all over that area there as well. So it's make a trip. Go and get a cleaning or something, and then go have some food. Kevin, I really do appreciate it. I know we'll definitely be in touch. I want to at some point do this again in person. We'll have you in person once you have the opportunity. But it's a real pleasure, Kevin. I appreciate it, and we'll be talking again soon.
Thank you, Steve, so much for having me. Take care.
Yep.